familiar with Loretto Plaza, Carolyn DeLoreto's name. It's personally for us at Chaucer's, the DeLoretos have been great family friends, and if we could just do a quick moment of silence for Carolyn's father John and her uncle Jim, two great friends of Chaucer's, before we start. All right, let's begin. Let's turn it over to Rachel for the introduction.
Hi everyone, we made it safely, didn't we, through the rain? Thank you so much for coming. And let's give it up for Mike and Chaucer's. One of our beloved literary institutions and brick and mortar bookstores in our county. So I just want to welcome everyone. Thank Mike, everyone, the owner Mari, and the staff for having us tonight. He already did the task of asking you all to mute your phones. And we're also, do you have a clipboard? Oh, good. So we're going to pass around, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping and then I'll tell you what we're going to do tonight. Caroline has an email list here. We're just going to send it around if you want to keep up to date on, she's working on a whole series of books and she'll be talking about her next project later. But I'm going to just send this way. No pressure. We don't know who
I
doesn't
promise
sign
not
up.
to send you a bunch of stuff. Like, I'm not into getting a lot of stuff, so it's only when, like, a real announcement needs to be made.
I need a pen. A pen. Yes, that was the first
I'm
trick.
so glad all of you guys are here. So it means a lot to me in the rainstorm. Thank you so much.
So she also has a website, Caroline DeLoreto, that you can check out as well. And if you do end up loving her book, which we truly hope that you do, the best way of supporting an independent author like Caroline is to take the time to give her a glowing review on Amazon or Goodreads and write something thoughtful, because it really helps her with the algorithm with Amazon. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be formally introducing Caroline, explaining who the heck I am for those of you that are wondering why I'm up here talking. And then I'll be doing a short interview with Caroline about some important touch points that she's covered in the book. And then I'm going to be bringing up a very special person in our life, Dr. Jennifer Salcido, and introducing her. And then we're going to have a Q&A where we can open it up to any of your questions that you might have. And then afterwards, she can sign away. She's got paperbacks, hardbacks tonight. She has an audiobook coming out soon, too.
Yeah, a couple weeks, the audiobook will be released. And yeah.
She's on it. She's on fire. Okay, so now.
Just love seeing all your faces. Thank you. Go ahead.
So my name is Rachel Sarah Thurston. I am the owner of State of Sparkle. I am a branding and marketing coach for business owners, entrepreneurs, and authors. So I've been helping Caroline with promoting her book here locally, but more importantly, I am a writer. I am a fellow chronic Lyme disease survivor, and Caroline is like family to me. She's one of my very best friends, and I'll be explaining more about how we first met. So Caroline has been in my life for almost 20 years now, and it was well before either of us really knew that we had Lyme disease. Dr. Jennifer Salcido came into my life quite fortuitously around 9 years ago after I saw a documentary on Lyme, and I sought out her help after she was recommended to me by a dear friend who also had Lyme. Caroline and I met 20 years ago while studying filmmaking at City College. We are both super outdoorsy, born storytellers, and we had an immediate kinship with each other. For our semester project, we collaborated together to direct a documentary film about chick surfers. We lost touch over the years until many years later when I was deep into fighting advanced Lyme disease. I hosted a gathering at my house on bee venom therapy, and I encouraged Dr. Salcido to invite any patients that she had or people interested in learning about treatments for Lyme disease. And much to my surprise that night, I still see it very clearly, I opened my kitchen door and my long-lost girlfriend Caroline was standing at that door as a fellow Lyme patient, and she was there with her new husband, Adam. So looking back at that night, and as I'm telling this story, I'm getting full body chills head to toe. We both feel as if the divine has brought us back into each other's lives. There are friends that come into your life for a season, others that come into your life for a reason, and there are a rare handful of people that come into your lives and they change the course of it in the most positive possible way. And I can honestly say that is the truth for both of these amazing women. And without the support of both Caroline and Dr. Salcido, my husband and my mother, I would not be standing here today helping with this tonight. In the years Caroline and I had been apart, we had both come down with Lyme disease, and we were really struggling to navigate the uncertain waters that anyone with the debilitating chronic illness knows all too well. The year prior, Caroline had just experienced a massive stroke and a near-death experience, which you will be reading more about in her book. And I was just beginning and unknowingly entering some of the most difficult and darkest times of my own healing journey. Fighting Lyme is the hardest thing I've ever faced in my life. What it steals from you and how it can strip away everything that you love piece by piece. You question your life, you question your purpose, and there are times when the despair and the sense of hopelessness are beyond measure, and you just want the pain to be taken away. You face your mortality on a daily basis during these times, but Caroline knew and understood all of it. Caroline has faced her own demons and mortality on countless occasions, but she has one particular superpower, and most of you in here probably know what that is. She actually has several, but this is the biggest one. She never loses her connection to Source, her optimism, and this unshakable faith that she has a larger purpose on this earth. Caroline is truly relentless in her pursuit of knowledge and in her ability to transcend fear and be courageous even against the greatest of odds. She doesn't allow herself to become a prisoner to her own fears or to be paralyzed by hopelessness. Quite simply, Caroline never, ever, ever gives up. And for anyone with Lyme, that is truly the greatest gift, the hope for healing and the possibility that tomorrow might be a better day. She's truly the real deal, and like a rare few, she's had the gift of touching that void with her near-death experience and coming back with powerful wisdom and insight into a deeper sense of healing. It's crystal clear to me, and many of you who know Caroline, that her purpose on this earth is to spread her light and love. I love the wings that she chose because it's perfect. To encourage healing and to inspire hope in those of us who have walked these dark paths. I can't tell you all how blessed I am to be a part of this healing and this creative journey with both her and Dr. Salcido. So friends, family, and loved ones, I would love to introduce Caroline DeLoreto. So I have a few questions for you. Do you want to just take a breath and say, yay?
I'm just so excited to see all of you guys. Thank you for being here on this crazy stormy day. It's amazing. I know how much it took to get here with this weather, and it touches my heart seeing each of you. I'm so joyful.
I could feel your excitement. You're just like, this is amazing.
Go hug everyone and
so
stuff.
this is only your second book signing, right?
Yeah,
so
the actual signings, yeah.
It's just the beginning of a huge journey, and you all are a part of this journey with us, with her.
Yeah.
So Caroline, why did you choose to write this book?
I didn't really, I feel like I got chosen to write this book. It chose me because I went through a whole dementia, it's all in there, so I'm just gonna give you an overview, but went through suddenly I had dementia and I started losing my memory and I didn't have a lot of purpose, and it was just really hard, and then I got to this point where I lost my memory, and then I learned a bunch of things from that. I'm not going to go into that right now, but then I had this near-death experience after a stroke, and when I was in the near-death experience, this is what got me to writing this book, is, I don't know if people know me, some of you do, some of you don't, so I call it my first part of my life. For about 15 years, I was a teacher at Santa Barbara Middle School, a lot of people here, and my whole purpose since I was 2 or 3, I knew I was going to be a teacher. I wanted to study my teachers when I was going through school, and that was the purpose in me. There's Mrs. Dawson, Dawn Dawson, my 3rd grade teacher who taught me how much I love writing. I just love her, so it just means so much you're here. So that was my purpose, and while I was in the near death, I had, so I got sucked off the earth. I was in an MRI machine after the stroke, and I just didn't feel quite right, and suddenly I was leaving Earth. There was nothing I could do. It was out of my control. Alicia, I love you. That's she lived with me, my niece. She's like my goddaughter. So I was leaving Earth, and all I could see was my feet and these little tiny feet down in the MRI machine, and I was just going, please, I have more to do. I'm not ready to leave Earth. Like, please don't. I don't want to leave, but I kept going. Nothing I could do to stop it, right? And finally, I got to this point where it just kind of got still, and I wasn't in the MRI machine anymore, but my feet were way down back on Earth, like Stretch Armstrong, okay? And I heard a voice say, no, you're not. Like, no, you're not ready to go. And I saw these big hands grab my ankles. They weren't really there. They're spirit hands, right? And it whipped me back down into my body. I came 100 miles per hour and hit my body. Now, time out. I'm going to go back because time doesn't work the same where I was. That would be a second in our, or whatever, you know. But I got this huge download about, no, you're not. And then my body started to go back, but I peeled off a layer that was blue, and I was holding it. And it was a version of myself that was blue. And they're like, nope, you can't take it with you. And so it's like, no, I want to, you know. I couldn't. It blew off and away from me. And at the same time, I got a download that, I got a bunch of downloads, but the first download I got, and what I call download, is like, it comes in pictures and images, and it's really a lot of info, but it was about how I had finished what I was doing with the kids and stuff. I still love them, but I had a new purpose, so I was going to be going back down, and it was all about helping this culture and our culture right now reach people that had like chronic illness, Lyme, and a couple other things. I didn't even know I had Lyme yet. I had dementia when I went into for the stroke and stuff, so I saw that it was healthcare, came down, hit my body, and as I hit the body in the MRI machine, the entire machine just stopped working, went completely haywire, flashed a bunch, and then kaput. And I was the MRI tech came out, and she's like, I don't know what happened. You've been laying here so still, like, so still.
Almost dead.
I'm like, and I had a stutter. So the stroke gave me this side of my body I couldn't use for a couple of months. Well, and I had a horrible stutter. Like, I couldn't speak. And I just kind of was like, well, I came back to Earth. You know, like I died, I came back to Earth, I just landed. And as I hit my body, the reason I'm saying this is that I got another download right when I came into my body. And it was 3 downloads. One was a picture of like a scroll contract, and it was writing contracts. And the first thing I was supposed to do, it was kind of a guide for me, was to rewrite contracts with people in my life and to get them balanced. I was going to be having a new purpose, and it could confuse people that were in my life. And I didn't know how long it would take, but I was like, okay, I can do that. So I did that, and it took about 1.5 years after the near-death. I was rewriting contracts with people in my life, looking at that, rebalancing boundaries, all sorts of stuff, and treating Lyme disease, because I didn't know I had Lyme, neurological Lyme. So that's a whole other thing. But the second download was of a woman who was a woman doctor, and I was sitting next to her. This is going to be the next thing that I would be doing. They give me a little picture. I didn't know when. She was sitting next to me, and I was learning how to do her her job. And so after I finished the contracts thing about 2 years later after the near-death, I went, a naturopathic doctor who had helped me get better called me up and said, I have been getting this really strong feeling I'm supposed to ask you to come train with me and take over my business. And she was really scared to ask me. I was like, yes. I had never seen her face. We'd only been on the phone. And I went out to Vermont where she lived, and I met her in the snow, in the dark, got out of the car, and just chills, everything ran down me. It was the exact woman that I saw in this download. And it was so clear that was the next step. So I was on my next step. 1.5 years later, COVID hit. So I'm just giving the short. But here comes why the book writing. I had seen the 3rd download when I hit my body. All this comes so fast, and you can't even, it's just all this information. It was a big stack of books, and I was writing books, and there were other people that I was writing them with and stuff. And so COVID hit, and suddenly I sat down, and in about 4 weeks, the draft of this book was out, just downloaded through me. So that's why, I mean, that it wasn't really a choice. It is a choice. I choose to write. I love to write. That was already in there. It started in Mrs. Dawson's 3rd grade class. Yay. So, but it became a really big part of like what my purpose is now, is to help reach people, find hope, heal, and And then he did it. Hi, it's great. It's okay. Hello, Scott. Yes, I hear you.
Alarms go off even though it's silent.
It's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Don't worry about
Oh my
it.
gosh,
It was
mine
perfect
will
timing.
too.
So anyway, so that's what brought me to write this book. My purpose, this journey in this second part of my life has been to. I haven't been able to be around as many people because I get overwhelmed brain wise sometimes, and but I'm getting a lot better. Here we are, right? This is a big moment. But I'm able to reach people with my writing and books, and maybe reach more people that way. So, and I'm open to. So that's why I wrote the book.
So that's a perfect segue.
Okay.
Caroline
Thank you, guys.
and I have talked quite a bit about what a surprise it is that this book, I think you originally thought it would just appeal to people with Lyme.
Yeah.
And you're finding that people across the spectrum, healthy, dealing with Lyme, chronic illness. I have a loved one that has had complex PTSD, and they're finding a lot of benefit.
Yeah.
So for anyone reading your book,
Yeah.
what do you feel is the most important takeaway from reading From Lyme to Light?
I think being able to two things. One thing is that everybody here is an individual and needs different things to be in balance, and any of us can be out of balance at some point, maybe not Lyme, but something else, emotional, physical, or anything like that. I really got to know that we are energy, and we are all energy, and we can heal, and I'm just gonna go, sorry, I'm going all over. Diagnoses are great to give you like a parameter of what you might need to focus on and get better, but you aren't your diagnosis, and they aren't permanent necessarily. If you want to believe in them that way, that's fine. But and that if they help you, that's a really good thing. But also to know that you don't have to be the diagnosis, and you have freedom to do things that can help yourself. Like in my book, I talk about a diamond of healing philosophy. Anybody can apply that to their daily life and find either a healing team, kind of like the good naturopathic doctors or whatever you need, or Western or whoever, but you can also apply this stuff and do it yourself. I'm not a doctor, so you know when I'm saying this. And it's going to be about your energy body, and which is like a really, you fix the physical body, you fix the mental, emotional imbalances, or you recognize them. You don't even know they're there, right? And you check out your physical, your diet, and all that stuff, and then social and spiritual body. And I feel like all these sides of ourselves make up, in the center is our energy body, because we are energy. All of us, the whole world is energy. So like this book's energy. So when you realize that, there are ways to tweak your energy, and you can get better and do things. And I did energy class with Tahara over here 2 years after the stroke and all that, to ground. I couldn't be around people because I would get pictures from everyone around me because I didn't have an auric field anymore. I didn't know that. I didn't realize. So I just was. We all have these skills that we can learn. They're not anything. Everybody has the ability, or if they want to, or to turn it off. I wanted to turn stuff off after the stroke. Too much stuff was coming in. So it was super helpful and used as a tool. So thank you, Tahara. What else? I was gonna say. Oh, one more thing. Love. The biggest thing, one of the biggest things is that when I came back to my body, I would see memories from my life from up to 32 years old. And they played like a video, like Vipassana meditation does and stuff. They played like a video instead of from my first person eyes. And the most amazing thing happened. I started, even when I think of memories before now, it still does this. It makes it play with only the emotion of love. So even like traumatic events, or things that are really hard or painful, it played back as love. Like I had love for even these people that were pretty abusive and stuff at certain times in my life, but I had love for them, and it was such a different experience, and that opened my heart so much. And I think all of us, it's something that when you can get there, it's just helpful to know, because we take love with us. We don't take all the other stuff with us when we die. So we don't take our stuff or our money or anything. It's love. So, was there anything else?
No, you answered the next two questions, but so before I ask you the other question, I did want to do a shout out. We have some amazing, all of you are amazing human beings here. We have two thought leaders here. Tahara, who she mentioned, is an incredible intuitive, and she teaches energy healing. Am I saying that right, Tahara? Energy healing classes.
Clairvoyant training class.
Clairvoyant training. And
the skill that we all have.
We also have
Not
Dr.
anything.
Peter Wright over here.
Yes.
And he is a metaphysical hypnotherapist who's I've also worked with, and really they're wonderful thought leaders in our community. So if you're interested in any of this around energy healing and near-death experiences,
It's not woo-woo, it's skills that we have with our brain that you can learn to use.
so good that you brought that
Thank you.
up.
There you
So
go.
my next question
Yeah.
is, how do you think? What abilities do you think have been opened up for you in your brain intuitively from having gone through Lyme and in your death experience? And do you think that's accessible to everyone here?
Yes, it's definitely accessible. Everybody has like learning these skills, like how Tahar teaches them in a way that, and but accessible. What was the other part of the question?
So how?
Sorry, guys.
How is it that what gifts and abilities have been opened up to you through going through Lyme
Oh,
disease
okay.
and near-death experience?
Just my brain didn't work well when I got the full-blown dementia for the first 6, 7, 9 months before I had the stroke, and it got to the point they diagnosed me with full-blown early onset dementia. Alicia, I love you over there. She was living full-time with me in middle school and high school. And I really couldn't remember anything. I was in the moment. That was the hugest gift that I got to have. Is I was 32 and they tell me this is it. You're not going to get better. We can't help you anymore. I was going to a neurologist. And I'm like, nah, that's not. But I also wasn't with it enough to remember them saying stuff to me. You know, I kept a journal, luckily. And also, when I started getting better, my memory started coming back, even though I didn't remember at the time. So, but,
wasn't sure if that was a dog.
so being in the moment, so that's where I'm going to go. When I lost my memory, I lost the past and the future. So in the past, shame lives in the past and fear lives in the future, or anxiety. And I got to have this experience where I remember the first day that it was probably November, because I fully lost my memory by like end of December, but in January. But I was driving. I'm so scared to death of lightning my whole life. And there was a lightning storm, and I was with my husband Adam, and I was like driving. I'm like, oh my gosh, Adam, that's beautiful. It was like lightning. And he was looking at me like I was crazy. I mean, Lily, you know, going on the trips and stuff, I would be a little mud puppy was my name, because I'd shake if there was lightning. I couldn't stand. I wanted to get away from it. Barbara too, on the street. My parents would have me in the car shaking with the lightning bolts when I was a kid. And Adam, take me to those lightning bolts. And he was like, him and Lisa in the car, like, what's wrong with her? Like, that's her biggest fear. And I seriously had no fear in me. And it was another sign of like something had shifted. And from that moment on, there was no fear about anything, which is a weird thing to experience. And then shame went away at some point pretty early on, I think, right, at least. So I would say things without knowing I shouldn't say them and all sorts of things. But it gave me freedom to not, it gave me freedom because it allowed me to live in the moment. And I got to this point where it was hard when you're going through the change of it. But once I got to this point, I could just be in the moment. And it was such freedom, and in a way, horrible for people around me that didn't understand what's going on, but or trying to help. But that was such a gift, because I learned that I was so anxious about things and in the past about what was wrong and things, and it allowed me to be in the moment. And now even it's gone on with me after it gave this freedom. So being in the moment is a gift also. If you ever in a hard time, everybody here has had a hard time, so, right? Raise your hand if you have. Even painful leg, get stitches, whatever. Horrible day, somebody made fun of you, whatever. It's a horrible day. It's a horrible moment. And so each moment is new, and it's like gives you a gift. Like, this is a horrible moment. I'm in so much pain. I can't take it. Okay, it's a moment. It's gonna pass, or you die. But that would either way. But it's gonna pass, and it does pass. And if you can remember that, you don't get as stuck as long, and it's freedom. So okay, I'm talking too much.
So I have two more questions. One before we pull up Dr. Salcido, and then we're going to open up to a Q&A.
Yeah,
but I
thank you,
did
guys.
want to touch on something she brought up, and that is that raise your hand if you've been a caregiver for a loved one with an illness, for someone mental, physical stress. I just want to do a huge shout out to all of you, because there's a lot of attention on the person suffering from the disability, and the people who are caregiving. There really should be a support group, and I'll do that within the context of Lyme disease. For any partners or loved ones of people with Lyme, hats off to all of you for just bearing with us through the horribly hard journey at times. Okay, so
Thank you.
What is the next project that you're working on?
Oh, okay. So I am. So Lyme is the theme when I first started out, and it's really moved to helping people find hope and healing in all sorts of areas. But the next book, just started writing it about 4 weeks ago with Treya Palmer. This one, Dr. Salcido helped me with stuff, and
By the way,
and this
if
Dr.
you haven't
Salcido.
seen it.
But she helped me with all my Lyme treatment and stuff. But Treya Palmer's the ND that I saw in the download and then went out and studied with in Vermont, and learned a lot about how to treat different chronic illnesses, mystery illnesses. Hi, Matt. Sorry, I just love seeing all you guys. And so we just started. It was 4 weeks ago. We got together, and it's just downloading. That's why I say it's kind of my choice, but kind of not. I have a purpose here where it's getting this info to then get out to people and help them heal. So it's called Who Am I Without My Illness? And it's about, and Trey and I it's just flowing out of us. But we really found, she did this work for 30 years with patients of all different chronic illness, mystery illness. They got sent to her from many doctors, and then she sent them what she found to unblock them. And we both just found that you get to this point where you ask someone who's been ill for a long time, you know, what does it look like when you're better? What does it look like when you're cured? What does that look like? And it's like a blank face. It's a blank. And we don't realize it, but I mean, even me, I've had to go through this journey. I'm getting to go through a little more because I'm writing it right now, but you don't realize how much we identify with our illness or our challenges or our disabilities or anything. And that's okay if you identify with it. But if we want to help people see a way out and freedom to heal or to accept it or to be it, but like to be able to look at that. So we're writing, it's about 100 pages so far, but it's just coming out, and it's to help people, guide people with that topic and how to get free and how to look at all sides of. You have benefits when you have an illness. It comes with some benefits, as many challenges as it has. There are things that we get used to, and also you go to change, and maybe your partner's used to being ill, and that change can cause like a pendulum, like a little back and forth or a teeter-totter. I went through that with my husband, and I know a lot of people, and you can break people up, but if you know how to talk about it and recognize it, it gives you freedom. It gives your partner's freedom, or your family, or whoever's involved. So that's what it's about. And then I'm also doing homeopathic medicine school in Toronto. And it's going to be something in the books. And it's another, it's amazing. It's Western medicine. People don't know that, but just start using it. It's a great tool to add to people like Dr. Salcido, who's the naturopathic doctor. And so that's what I'm studying. That's what I'm doing.
So perfect sex. So basically, all of you know, Caroline is on fuego 24/7, and she has no shortage of wisdom to share with the world. So I want to formally introduce another human being that I think is quite extraordinary. She's become a very dear friend to both of us. She is an incredible naturopathic doctor who's an integrative doctor. She has the most dizzying array of modalities in her toolkit. She can work with Western medicine, alternative, homeopathy, everything under the sun, and she specializes in chronic.
Sorry.
She specializes in chronic invisible illness, and the three of us have something real special. The friendship that has come about. This is Dr. Jennifer Salcido. I would like to introduce you all. Okay.
Thank you.
So, I usually was gonna ask, the next question I was gonna ask before we open it up to a Q&A is, what advice would you give to someone who is newly diagnosed with Lyme or struggling with a chronic illness that they might suspect?
I answered this question on Saturday, but I feel like I have a little bit different answer this time. Find support. You know, a lot of patients don't know. Like, we met somebody on Saturday that didn't know there's a Santa Barbara Lyme group, and you know, to have other people that are going through the same thing. A lot of people with Lyme disease or other chronic illnesses feel alone, and so it's always great to have that support. And also, you want to have a team to support you. So you want to find someone that's called Lyme literate, meaning they understand Lyme disease and they've treated it before many times, and that they're familiar with it, and just to give yourself time to heal. And a lot of people with Lyme have to step away for a while. They have to remove themselves from their regular life, and that's okay. We all sometimes just need a little time for healing. So those are some things I think about.
Is it, I want to bring up, is it okay to bring up the Lyme group?
Yeah.
Is it okay?
No.
Is it okay? I was trying to be like, keep privacy, but yeah. What's
Santa Barbara Lyme Group?
Santa Barbara Lyme Group? We've both found amazing community on Facebook. There are such amazing people, human beings, mostly women actually, that I've met who are also suffering from Lyme, but there's a local Santa Barbara Lyme group that you all can also look into and ask us about after.
One more also is when I first started out, I was working with Dr. Klinghardt, and there was a patient of ours that was in the movie Under Our Skin, the one that Rachel had seen, and she has a group also called Lyme Less, Live More, because as these ladies know, sometimes it becomes your whole life. And so she's also a great resource, and Dana Walsh.
She's amazing.
So, you know, she was talking about, I listen in sometimes, you know, so she was talking about how a lot of people there, even their own family doesn't believe they're sick, or friends, and so, so it's just always nice, no matter what your illness, to have other people that maybe understand what you're going through.
And if you have someone that is interested in that group, I got permission from Ashley, if you can raise your hand. And we've connected through mutual friends in the Lyme community, and has started a Lyme Facebook group as well. So we'd love, thank you so much. We can go deeper into all of these rabbit holes around testing, treatments, all of that, but because we've been talking a lot, I just want to make sure that you all get to ask your questions. So we'd like to open this up to any questions, burning questions that you might have.
Anybody have any questions for me or anyone, or Salcedo or anyone? The quiet group.
You guys are so quiet. Is it the rain? Are you all like in awe or shy?
I'd like to ask about the medical research that has been so delayed in getting started.
Yeah.
And I've noticed in about the last 5 years maybe that the National Institute of Health and others, like at Johns Hopkins, that they're beginning to do research and treatments, but I have the impression that they're so fundamental right now, and that by the time anything useful comes around, I'll be dead and gone. So I wonder
I'd like
if
to
that's
say
a
something after
kind
you
of a
take your
consensus feeling. I mean, that's the way it looks.
Well, what I have found is there has been a lot of research into Lyme, actually by like prestigious universities, but just nobody hears about it. So even back like 20 years ago, they were researching like hyperbaric oxygen and Lyme disease and showing.
Can you speak up? I'm
Okay,
hard
let
of
me
hearing.
try to be louder.
Yeah.
I have found there is a good amount of research, but people don't know about it. So for instance, way back when I first was studying about Lyme disease, that was like 2006, there were good studies. Like Texas A&M had done one on hyperbaric oxygen and Lyme, showing really good efficacy, but people just don't know about it. And there's probably like a vested interest in people not hearing about things like that. There's been a lot of research about hyperthermia and how helpful that is, but that's not really even available in the United States. You have to go to Mexico or you have to go to Germany. But what I found is there is research, it's just a little bit like underground or quiet. And I think what it is too, a lot of these like well-known universities know there's a stigma around Lyme disease because there's a belief that there's no chronic Lyme. It's just, you just take antibiotics and it's gone and you're fine. Nothing's, you know, kind of like COVID, you know, people didn't believe in long COVID, now we have that, but there's long Lyme, and that was something that people didn't want to see. The conventional world didn't want to acknowledge that. And so if you're doing research, now you're acknowledging that there's some issue besides just giving someone antibiotics for a week or 10 days.
Can I add
And
to
she
that?
wants
Just-
to add.
This is my favorite
Go, go.
question. So I've got a little bit of a darker perspective on it. There's a really politicized, almost nefarious cover-up of Lyme disease, and that, in my opinion, has led to a suppression of acknowledgement that it is a chronic illness. The CDC, as many of us learned, is kind of a hot, sweet mess. And for years, they were underestimating the number of people that get Lyme. And unfortunately, there's a very high suicide rate among people with Lyme. And one of the reasons, besides the fact that it can wreck you mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, is that mainstream doctors do not recognize Lyme disease. They're not taught about it. The gatekeepers for infectious disease diagnosing is it's the IDSA, right? Infectious Disease Society of America. They were actually sued by the Attorney General of Connecticut many years ago, and they were found to have multiple conflicts of interest. Several of them were working in the private sector on vaccines or bioweapon research. And if you look into the history of Lyme disease, Lyme has been around for thousands of years, but it's been tampered with. It was discovered in the 70s, and 12 miles offshore is an agricultural research station called Plum Island. And so COVID, more and more is coming out about COVID, but Lyme, I'm hoping that with more awareness around COVID, that we're going to get more illumination of Lyme and why we're not being given proper testing and proper treatments. So I know that's a dark rabbit hole.
Yes.
Have you studied under, or do you endorse IMADs?
Oh yes, definitely.
That's the good
Near-death-
acronym.
Near-death, and Barbara was there last week.
No, that's
Oh.
so ILADS
ILADS
is
is-
it's the good Lyme disease.
Lyme,
IDSA are the
sorry.
baddies.
Sorry.
ILADS are the good ones.
Sorry.
Yes, and you
Wrong
were thinking
acronym.
of
Same sounds
the
similar.
International Association for Near-Death Experiences. ILADS is International Lyme Association Disease Society,
I
right?
think so.
Yes,
Okay.
you got it.
It trains
Both of them.
ILADS are good.
It trains health. Yeah.
Yes,
They're pretty
Let's
heavy
do
on
that.
antibiotics, but yes, they're good.
they're better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a ray of hope.
Yes, it is. It is a right help. And then find your healing team, and they can help address all sides of your body, like Dr. Solzito or, Eastern medicine, or just be open to lots of different ways. Homeopathy. Yes, Ellen.
Caroline, are you free of Lyme disease now?
That's a great question.
I don't really understand what that
This
means.
is a good question. So how I feel about it is that when you get Lyme, if your immune system is compromised already, or something else is going on, you might show symptoms more, and I'll let you say that in a sec. But I believe that you can get to a point where you're in a healing state, and if your body's working well, like the energy. That's why the energy body is so important, is in balance and health. You can, if the Lyme isn't hiding somewhere in you, a lot of people could have it and not know, and they will be able to keep it down and live. I mean, we all have stuff inside us. We're not perfect beings here, right? We get exposed to stuff, but do you want to share really quick about that? What you think you shared a lot? Do you remember?
Well, I'll
Last time,
just
the
share
immune
that
system.
I think that the Lyme disease is more like a virus. It's a bacteria, but it acts more like a virus.
Oh, this is
So
good.
it can hide in your tissues, and so it can spread out a lot, unlike a virus. So a lot of people, when they think I'm free of Lyme, actually, if they have some sort of stressor like a car accident or a divorce or a death or something, their symptoms come back. So it seems like it kind of stays in the body, just like whoever's had COVID here, COVID's in our body now. You know, if you had chickenpox, it's in your body. But
Yeah.
people get shingles when they're under stress,
Yeah.
or they're run down.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with Lyme. Like,
Great. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Anybody else
Yeah.
have any questions? And I want to get to the science because people are leaving.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you get Lymes from things other than ticks? Is there
Good
any
question,
other ways
Tamara.
that people can contract it?
Yes.
Jennifer.
Because I've heard different
Dr.
there are.
Solcito.
yeah, so it is passed a few ways. So it can be passed from pregnant moms to their children through breast milk or through the placenta. This is a little bit controversial, but it seems pretty clear it can be passed sexually. And then now there's other vectors besides ticks. So it seems like it could be sometimes passed through spiders, through fleas, through mosquitoes. So it's not just ticks. And so people will say, but I'd never had a tick bite. And you don't have to have one to have Lyme. So
There was something I was
I think that's great.
There was something I was
Let's
going to
let me
add
keep
about
going.
that.
What, did you have a question? No.
I was just gonna.
We're almost
apply.
done. Is there any other question? You can keep going.
Oh, I know.
Don't leave
I
me.
wanted to add that. Okay.
Michelle.
Would you say that your book applies to people with all types of different autoimmune conditions?
My book? Yes, definitely. So that's a great question. I have a section on, I didn't know if this was true or not until later, but when I wrote it, it's about the healing diamond, and it has the energy, body, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual body, and it helps you guide you to rebalance all areas. And I've had multiple people who did this with different conditions, cancer or autoimmune issues or emotional traumas, and if you do all those areas, which naturopathic doctors focus on a lot, it helps the person get balanced and stronger, and then be able to heal or be in a healing state, so that they aren't sick as much, can turn stuff off. Was that a good answer, Michelle? Okay. And do you have anything to add to that?
No, but I was just thinking of, your philosophy, how that would apply to anything. Healing physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, that could be applied to any illness. And I would say that some of my mentors have said anything chronic it's beyond physical if it's chronic. So that's usually why people aren't getting better, because they may be just working on the physical. You have to look at emotional, psychological, spiritual. And when you study homeopathy, you also see these things beyond that, like ancestral or societal energies that play into people. My hypnotherapist is saying
Genetics and miasms.
yeah. So there's more than meets the eye. Physical things are not always just physical.
That's good.
I was gonna say, so I'll just share that all of our info is on here. Dr. Salcido is at sbintegrative.com. If you are in, she's amazing. She's right up on State Street. I'm on here. I've got a new website. Carolyn's got a beautiful website. And we just want to thank Mike and Chelsers for having us,
Thank
and
you
all
so
of you
much.
for coming out. Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Thank you. Oh, and Weston Chiropractic back there.